He's a good guy, and we have a great understanding of each other. We're great friends. Now, he's a very complex, involved person. I never get tired of him. He's got his own sense of humor. He's got his own way of thinking.
Known for her powerful voice and her generous spirit, Dolly Parton has lived a not-so-private life. For years, fans have been curious about her mysterious marriage to Carl Dean, a relationship that sparked both admiration and confusion. Now, after half a century, Dolly is finally opening up about it. Was their marriage truly as perfect as everyone believed? Or was there more to Carl Dean's choice to stay out of the public eye? Join us to uncover Dolly's confession and find out why it has raised emotional questions. The mystery man. Carl Dean, the quiet man behind country music legend Dolly Parton, passed away on March 3, 2025, at the age of 82. Though he spent nearly 60 years married to one of the most recognizable voices in the world, Carl lived almost entirely outside the spotlight by choice. In a world where many famous people's partners become well-known themselves, Carl did just the opposite. He stayed behind the scenes, supporting Dolly from a distance and living a peaceful, private life. Carl worked hard as an asphalt paver and eventually owned his own paving company. While Dolly dazzled crowds in rhinestones and sang on the world's biggest stages, Carl kept life simple, paving roads, fixing up old trucks, and enjoying quiet moments at home. He wasn't a part of the music business at all, but he loved music, especially Dolly's songs, which he preferred to hear from the comfort of their home. Carl's deep desire for privacy was something Dolly always respected and admired. She once shared how she begged him to attend an award show with her in 1967. It was the first time she won a major award for her song Put It Off Until Tomorrow. She rented him a tuxedo and was thrilled when he agreed to go. But Carl, ever the quiet soul, was completely uncomfortable the entire evening. As soon as they got home, he began taking off the tuxedo. In a calm but serious tone, he told her he wanted her to chase all her dreams and that he truly wished her well, but made it clear she should never ask him to attend another one of those events again because he simply wouldn't go. And he never did. But that didn't mean he didn't care. He was always cheering Dolly on, just not from the red carpet. While other celebrity spouses posed for cameras, Carl was clapping for her from their living room. He was her biggest fan, just in his own quiet way. Their differences actually helped their relationship thrive. Carl loved staying home, surrounded by familiar things, while Dolly had a gypsy spirit and loved being on the road. Sometimes they'd take off together in her RV, traveling through Tennessee and Kentucky, stopping at little motels where they could relax without being recognized. Carl especially enjoyed these simple adventures. No fuss, no crowds, just the two of them. He also had hobbies that brought him joy. He loved fixing up old trucks and tractors, buying and selling them just for fun. Dolly used to joke that he didn't want her hanging around the house too much. It got in the way of his deals. Carl's privacy was so complete that some fans even joked he wasn't real. Dolly found the rumors funny and would laugh about them in interviews. When asked if her husband actually existed, she'd smile and say, "Oh, he's very real. He just doesn't want to be in the spotlight." He even made one special request: no photos of him in her Dollywood museum. That way, he could visit without anyone recognizing him. Over the years, Carl Dean became something of a legend, not for being famous, but for staying true to himself. Even when Dolly was honored with a place in the Country Music Hall of Fame, Carl stayed home. He believed there was no reason to change just because he married someone famous. "That's her world, not mine," he'd say. Their marriage was one of a kind. While Dolly answered endless questions about her mysterious husband, she always protected his wish to remain private. Ironically, the more he stayed out of the spotlight, the more people wanted to know about him. But Carl never tried to cash in on Dolly's fame. He never wrote a book, gave an interview, or stepped into the public eye. He simply loved her and let her shine. Carl didn't just avoid fame, he built a life entirely separate from it. He created a peaceful world where he could be himself, far from the cameras and flashing lights. That balance worked perfectly for them. Dolly got to follow her dreams without worrying about dragging Carl into the chaos, and Carl got to live quietly with the woman he adored. When Carl passed away in Nashville, he left behind not only his wife Dolly, but also his siblings, Sandra and Donnie. As always, his final farewell will be a private ceremony, just close family, just the way he would have wanted it. Even though he lived out of sight, Carl Dean was always at the heart of Dolly Parton's life. He was her anchor, her home, and her quiet strength. For nearly 6 decades, he stood by her side, never demanding attention, but always offering love. And in doing so, he became something rare and deeply special, a man who proved that love doesn't need a spotlight to shine. Even though Dolly Parton and Carl Dean kept their relationship private for most of their lives, did their story begin in an unexpected way? How did they meet? Or when did their paths first cross? The meeting that lasted half a century. In 1964, Dolly Parton walked into a laundromat in Nashville, Tennessee, with a suitcase full of dreams. At just 18 years old, she had recently graduated high school and left her hometown of Sevierville, Tennessee. She is the fourth of 12 children and had already tasted a bit of musical success at 13, when a small record label in Louisiana released her first single, Puppy Love. It wasn't a hit, but it was enough to keep her chasing her dream. Dolly knew she was meant to be a star, and she made no backup plan. On that day at the wishy-washy laundromat, Dolly was doing her laundry when a white Chevy pickup truck slowed down out front. Behind the wheel was 21-year-old Carl Thomas Dean, a local man working in the asphalt paving business. He noticed the petite blonde with her sky-high hair and couldn't help but comment on her sunburn. That simple remark sparked a conversation that would change both of their lives forever. Carl said later that when he first saw Dolly, 2 thoughts hit him at once. First, I'm gonna marry that girl. Second, Lord, she's good looking. From that moment, he was sure his life had just begun. And Dolly? She was surprised that Carl looked her straight in the eye. Most men didn't. He seemed genuinely interested in who she was, not just how she looked. At first, Dolly didn't agree to a date. Growing up in rural Tennessee, she had been taught to be cautious with strangers. Instead, she told Carl he could visit her at her uncle's house, where she was staying. And he did, every single day that week. Slowly, he earned her trust. Carl wasn't playing games. He was serious from the start. Their first date wasn't fancy. No candlelit dinner or live music, just sweet tea and a long conversation on a front porch swing. Carl took her to his parents' house where they sat for hours and talked. They laughed, teased each other, and learned about one another's worlds. Carl had a sharp sense of humor and didn't mind poking fun at Dolly's flashy outfits or big dreams. Dolly, with her wit and sparkle, made him laugh too. For Carl, it was love at first sight. Dolly wasn't quite sure yet, but for the first time, she felt truly seen. As their relationship deepened, Dolly's music career started picking up speed. She signed with Monument Records, and her future in Nashville looked bright. But there was one problem. In the 1960s, record labels often discouraged young female singers from getting married. They wanted their stars to appear single and available, to keep fans dreaming. When Carl and Dolly got engaged, Carl's mother was overjoyed and started imagining a big traditional wedding. Since her daughter had eloped, she had high hopes for her son's ceremony, but Dolly's record label had other plans. They had invested in her and were focused on building her career, so they asked her to delay the wedding for a year. Dolly didn't want to go against their wishes, and it left Carl's mother deeply disappointed. So instead of a grand wedding, Carl and Dolly eloped in secret. On May 30th, 1966, 2 years after they met, they drove 150 miles southeast to Ringgold, Georgia, a small town where there was no waiting period for a marriage license. The only guests were Dolly's mother, the preacher, and the preacher's wife. Dolly wore a plain white dress handmade by her mother and held a small bouquet. She told the pastor that a courthouse wedding wouldn't feel real to her. So instead, they found a small Baptist church and got married right there on the front steps. Afterward, they climbed into Carl's pickup truck and began their life together. Their honeymoon was as modest as their ceremony. Just a quiet road trip, no planes, no fancy hotels, just the two of them and the open road. Though Dolly would go on to become a global superstar, Carl never wanted fame. He didn't want to be known, photographed, or interviewed. The next year, Dolly's big break arrived. Her first full-length album, Hello, I'm Dolly, was released, and soon after, she joined the Porter Wagoner Show, which aired nationally. Each week, 45 million people tuned in to watch her sing. She was on her way to stardom. But even as Dolly's face became known across America, Carl stayed home. He continued running his paving business and quietly supported her every step of the way. Over the years, Carl became a quiet but steady force behind some of Dolly's most beloved songs. Take Jolene, for example. The 1973 hit tells the story of a woman pleading with a beautiful redhead not to take her man. But Jolene wasn't the only song Carl inspired. When he once asked Dolly about her past, she gave him an honest answer that made him uncomfortable. Instead of arguing, she turned that moment into the powerful anthem, "Just Because I'm a Woman," which challenged the unfair expectations placed on women. She used music to speak the truth, and Carl listened. Their relationship continued to inspire songs like "Say Forever You'll Be Mine" and "Tomorrow Is Forever." When they renewed their vows for their 50th anniversary in 2016, it inspired Dolly's album Pure and Simple, a collection of songs reflecting on their long, enduring love. Even in unexpected ways, Carl's quiet influence shaped Dolly's career. He was a huge rock music fan, and while Dolly spent decades in country, his love for classic rock stuck with her. In 2023, she finally released her rock album Rockstar, saying it was inspired in part by the music Carl played at home. He had helped her dream bigger without even knowing it. Through all the changes, fame, fortune, and decades of marriage, Carl stayed the same. He didn't care about Hollywood, didn't chase fame, and avoided public events. While rumors swirled about their marriage, Carl never defended himself publicly. He didn't have to. He knew who he was, and he knew he loved Dolly. As Dolly often said, what made it work was laughter. They could always find humor, even in hard times. Carl left her little notes, made her meals, and kept their world calm and steady. But fans have long believed that out of all the songs Dolly Parton has written, Jolene was the one most deeply inspired by her real life and by Carl. Could it really be true? Jolene. Fact or fiction? It's hard to imagine any woman posing a threat to Dolly Parton with her bold personality, big voice, and bigger heart. But that's exactly what happens in her legendary song Jolene, where one woman pleads with another not to take her man. It's a haunting tune, filled with longing and fear, and it's become one of Dolly's most beloved hits around the world. But what's the real story behind those aching words? In the song, the narrator begs a woman with flaming locks of auburn hair and eyes of emerald green not to steal her love. "I'm begging of you, please don't take my man," she sings, explaining that her partner even talks about Jolene in his sleep. It's a desperate cry wrapped in a beautiful melody, but while the song might sound tragic, the truth behind it is surprisingly playful and deeply rooted in Dolly's real life. Yes, Jolene was inspired by a real woman, a red-haired bank teller who flirted a little too much with Carl Dean, Dolly's husband. It was early in their marriage, and Carl was still running errands around town, including frequent trips to the bank. Dolly noticed how often he seemed to be stopping by and how the young teller's eyes lit up whenever he came in. Instead of getting angry, Dolly teased him about it. She turned the whole situation into a joke, one of those little playful moments couples share. But that small spark of jealousy led to something bigger, a hit song that would be sung by millions. But the name Jolene didn't come from the bank teller. It actually came from a sweet little girl Dolly met at a concert. The girl stood in line for an autograph and introduced herself as Jolene. So, the Jolene we all know and sing about was actually a mix of a playful moment with Carl and a chance meeting with a red-haired little girl. And as fans now know, Dolly didn't lose her man. In fact, she and Carl stayed happily married for over half a century, building one of the longest-lasting and most private love stories in show business. The balance between Dolly's love of adventure and Carl's preference for staying home was the heart of their relationship. While she traveled the world and sang to millions, Carl was always waiting for her, cheering her on from their living room, far from the flashing cameras. Their love was never loud, but it was steady. Through it all, their sense of humor kept them grounded. Dolly often said that laughter was the secret to their lasting love. No matter what challenges they faced, they could always laugh together. That playfulness found its way into her lyrics too, moments of wisdom wrapped in wit, just like how they were in real life. And while fans often blurred the line between Dolly's lyrics and her real life, guessing which songs were true and which were just stories, Carl never said a word. He never corrected anyone. He didn't care about gossip or attention. He knew the truth, and that was enough. So while Jolene may have started as a joke, and while the red-haired woman may have been real, the most important part of the story is what came after. A love that beat the odds, a partnership that lasted decades, a man who never needed the world to see him because one woman's love was more than enough. Carl Dean didn't sing a note or step into the spotlight. but in his quiet way, he helped shape the music we still listen to today. The real Jolene may have been fiction, but the love that inspired it? That was as real as it gets. But how did Carl Dean handle rumors about his superstar wife, Dolly Parton, living through the whispers? In the world of fame and flashing lights, it's rare to find a love story as steady and lasting as that of Dolly Parton and Carl Dean. While Dolly became a global icon, known for her rhinestones, big voice, and even bigger heart, Carl stayed quietly in the background, almost like a mystery. He wasn't seen at red carpet events, didn't give interviews, and didn't walk beside Dolly in the spotlight. That silence, while peaceful for him, sparked decades of rumors that never seemed to go away. Carl Dean handled the constant whispers and speculation the only way he knew how, by staying true to himself. He had no interest in fame, the music business, or being in front of cameras. From the very beginning, he preferred privacy. Instead, Carl supported Dolly from the sidelines. He watched her on TV, listened to her songs, and made sure their home was a place of peace. But because he chose to stay hidden from public view, many people began to wonder about him. Some fans even joked that he didn't exist. Others believed he had never seen Dolly perform. There were even rumors that he and Dolly lived separate lives or had quietly split up. But behind all the gossip, they had something rare: deep, unshakable trust. As Dolly's career took off in the 70s and 80s, the rumors grew louder. She was constantly surrounded by talented, good-looking men. Whether it was starring opposite Burt Reynolds in the best little whorehouse in Texas, or performing with Sylvester Stallone in Rhinestone, the tabloids loved to suggest that Dolly's friendships with male co-stars went beyond the screen. Her longtime musical partnership with Porter Wagoner also fueled stories. For 7 years, Dolly and Porter performed as a duo on the Porter Wagoner Show. Their onstage chemistry and closeness caused people to whisper about a deeper connection. The truth, though, was much simpler. They were great creative partners with a complicated business relationship. When Dolly chose to leave the show and go solo, Porter sued her for $3 million, and the split became public and painful. But through it all, through every lawsuit, headline, and joke, Carl Dean said nothing. He never defended himself, never stood before cameras to clear things up, and never once gave an interview to set the record straight. His silence puzzled many people, especially in a world where most celebrity spouses rushed to defend their image. But Carl's quiet wasn't weakness, it was strength. He didn't need to chase the truth in public because he already knew it in private. Carl knew that the Dolly the world adored, the woman in sequins with a megawatt smile, she was also the woman who came home to him each night, kicked off her heels, and laughed at the dinner table. He knew the real her, the one behind the wigs and makeup. He didn't let rumors shake his faith in her, because their bond wasn't built on image. It was built on trust. This calm, confident approach helped their marriage thrive in an industry where most relationships fall apart. Carl never asked Dolly to change her life for him. He never demanded that she avoid certain people or explain her every move. And he certainly didn't treat her like a trophy or possession. Instead, he gave her space to fly, knowing she'd always come back home. Even when Dolly released I Will Always Love You in 1974, a heartbreaking ballad as a farewell for her creative partner, people assumed it was about a secret affair. Most thought she had written it for Porter Wagoner, and in a way, they were right. But it wasn't about romance. It was a professional goodbye, a song filled with gratitude and pain about leaving behind a chapter of her career. While the world gossiped, Carl understood. He didn't need proof or explanation. He knew the difference between Dolly's art and her heart. Many celebrity husbands try to control what their wives wear, where they go, or who they spend time with. Some even hire private investigators or insist on traveling with them everywhere. But Carl did none of that. He trusted Dolly completely, and in return, Dolly trusted him too. She often joked about the rumors, laughing them off in interviews. She made it clear that Carl was real and very much part of her life. In fact, she would say that their secret to staying married was simple. They're completely different. He stays out of her hair, and she stays out of his. Their differences worked for them. When Dolly lost friends, struggled with exhaustion, or faced harsh media attacks, Carl was her quiet place. A man of few words, he gave her something the fame machine never could: peace. And after 6 decades of marriage, their relationship wasn't perfect, but it was real. It lasted not because they lived in the spotlight together, but because they respected each other's worlds. While Dolly toured the world, Carl held down their home. While the public dreamed up stories, Carl never let those dreams shake the truth of what they had. In a business where image is everything, Carl Dean was a reminder that love doesn't need to be loud to be strong. Sometimes, it just needs to be steady. The final chapter, a quiet goodbye. As the years went by, Carl Dean faced his final challenge away from the spotlight. Though many stars share their health battles publicly, Carl never did. Dolly, respecting his lifelong wish for privacy, never spoke about it either. Instead, she quietly stepped away from the stage and tours to care for him full-time as he reportedly battled Alzheimer's. At home in Tennessee, she wasn't a global icon, she was simply Carl's wife. Their home became a peaceful place where they could hold on to their love in quiet moments. Dolly said that even in his last months, Carl's face would light up when she entered the room. These simple, loving moments mattered more to her than any award or concert. When Carl passed away, true to his nature, there was no big public announcement or celebrity-filled funeral. Dolly kept it small, just family and close friends. For months, she stayed silent, grieving privately, as he would have wanted. When she did speak, it was to gently share the truth about their marriage. Despite years of rumors and tabloid stories, Dolly said their bond had always been strong. Carl never believed the gossip, never questioned her relationships with others. He trusted her completely. In a rare admission, Dolly said she had only one regret: not spending even more time with Carl. Her busy career had taken her away so often, and now she saw that nothing mattered more than the simple moments they shared. Before he passed, Carl gave Dolly a final message. "You've been my greatest joy." That quiet sentence summed up their nearly 60 years of love. Their relationship wasn't built on fame or flashy displays. It was built on small acts of love: coffee, kisses, inside jokes, and shared peace. Though they had no children, Dolly said she never regretted it, feeling free to love and help children everywhere. Dolly honors Carl not with big gestures, but in how she lives and remembers him, with grace, respect, and love. Their story proves that the strongest love doesn't need the spotlight. It just needs two people who choose each other every day. 4 days after the passing of her husband, Carl Dean, Dolly Parton opened her heart to the world in a way she rarely had before. In an emotional post shared with fans, she revealed a new song titled "If You Hadn't Been There," a moving tribute to the man who had stood beside her for more than 6 decades. Alongside a touching black and white photo from their younger days, she wrote, "He will always be the star of my life story." The ballad, filled with heartfelt lyrics and quiet strength, was not just a goodbye, it was a thank you to the man who never asked for fame, but who gave her the freedom and support to chase it. In the days that followed, Dolly was met with an overwhelming wave of love. Fans around the world sent flowers, cards, and messages filled with sympathy and admiration. Deeply touched, Dolly thanked them sincerely, sharing that Carl was now in God's arms and that she had found peace in that truth. While the world grieved with her, she remained true to the privacy that had defined their relationship. Carl's funeral, like his life, was quiet and simple. No press, no cameras, just family, close friends, and the woman who had loved him for a lifetime. It was a farewell as private and dignified as the man himself. From the moment they met outside a laundromat in Nashville, Carl had been Dolly's foundation. His calm presence balanced her whirlwind life. Now, as she continues without him, she turns her pain into music. Her song is a tribute not just to her husband, but to a kind of love that's rare, steadfast, humble, and eternal. Though Carl is gone, his memory lives on through her words, her music, and the quiet strength of their shared story. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.